Welcome back. It's the conversation, and this is the second segment of the program. This is a segment where we talk about anything and everything about Lagos. Now, trees contribute to the environment by providing oxygen, improving air quality, climate amelioration, conserving water, preserving soil, and supporting wildlife. During the process of photosynthesis, trees take in carbon dioxide and produce the oxygen we breathe. So understand the importance of trees. Now, ahead of the 2024 Tree Planting Day on July 14, Adetoun Popoola is the General Manager, Lagos State Parks and Gardens Agency, and she will be shedding more light on how her agency is promoting a greener and healthier Lagos. You're welcome.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Okay, so tree planting will be one of the major things that we'll be discussing today. But before we go into that, take us through, give us an overview of the initiatives undertaken by your agency in promoting a greener and healthier Lagos.
Okay, thank you for your question. Our agency, Lagos State Parks and Gardens Agency, we have a mandate to beautify Lagos as well as promote recreation and leisure for Lagosians. So in beautifying Lagos, one of the things that we do is plant trees to fight the effects of climate change. In promoting recreation and leisure, we have recreational parks and gardens that we establish and maintain so that people can go in there, relax, and just basically decompress, from the rigors of their daily lives and activities. That's basically.
Okay, knowing Lagos and it's not having enough land, it's more of water and of course the challenges of Lagos good boys, and since you have to deal with them also, what are the main challenges you face while trying to beautify Lagos?
Okay, one of the major challenges is actually people acknowledging that there's a need to beautify Lagos. People just feel like, why do I want to plant grass in the front of my building when I can concrete it and use it for parking? So there's that challenge of people even understanding why they need to do it. There's also the challenge, like you mentioned, of the good boys. And it's not much a LASPARK problem, but a Lagos problem. And it's a problem that the governor as well as the security infrastructure is trying to resolve, because it's sad when things are done for the benefit of Lagosians and somebody goes there and destroys it. These are things for the public good, and so because they don't understand it, they don't appreciate it, and so they don't care what happens to it. That's another major challenge. So one of the things that we do is we try to do some level of placemaking. So these days, we don't necessarily just go and beautify a place. We engage with the community, the people that use that space. Because sometimes before you take a space up and say you want to beautify, you should have engaged. So we engage with the community and find out what are the interests and things like that. So if, for example, we're taking up around a loop, for example, that we have boys that currently play football.
Exactly.
As the guys just beautifying it and planting grass, and they'll, in a few months to a year, they will go back there. So what we're trying to do now is then say, okay, how can we also put them into consideration by creating maybe a small mini football pitch for them, so they can also use the place and have that level of responsibility. So we did that with
Bagada.
We did that with Bagada, the Oworoshoki bypass. There was a makeshift basketball court that was being done there. And so that was a partnership between our agency and an NGO called Giants of Africa, as well as the Lagos State Safety Commission. So we created that basketball court and it's in use. In fact, they're asking us for more. So those are the kind of things that we want to be doing now. Although everywhere we cannot do those kind of things, but in the places that we can, then we try to do that.
Okay,
Go ahead.
Okay, aside from the benefits which I mentioned about tree planting, are there other benefits that people will, enjoy from tree planting in their environment?
Well, apart from beautification, because trees will beautify your space, trees also help you to have cleaner air. So as against being in the middle of two buildings, for example, you have a building and a tree. The tree, when it's waving in the air, is also cleaning the air, as well as absorbing carbon dioxide. The trees help with that. It also provides shade, so that your environment is cooler. And I mean, there's so many benefits of trees. We used to pluck fruits from trees when we were younger.
Yeah.
So
we used to climb trees.
We used to climb trees. So it's also a way for children to play. Trees that bear fruit also provide some level of economic value, both for your household as well as even commercial, if you're up to it.
Yeah. When you were talking about the challenges, you said something that people are not aware. So what are you doing as an agency to educate people on the need to promote a cleaner and greener environment, healthier, greener environment?
Okay, so as an agency under the Ministry of Environment, the ministry itself is doing a lot of advocacy. We start from even the young. The ministry has an environmental education program called Environmental Bees, that we go into schools, primary schools, secondary schools, and we're talking because we want a situation where even from a young age you understand it. We do some planting with them. We do creative gardening classes from time to time in our parks, where we invite kids during the holidays to come and also learn how to plant, why they should plant, and things like that. And even us, we do some advocacy. We go to offices, we go to individuals when they're home and talk to them about why they need to maintain trees. We're trying. I admit that we can do a lot more in terms of advocacy. Our plan for the rest of this year is to also start talking to the associations of the estates associations, the CDCs, the CDAs. We'll visit them on the days that they have their meetings, they have their general meetings, and just have these conversations with them, tell them why they need to keep those trees. Sometimes there may be a need to remove trees. However, it must be properly documented. It must be done in a way that it's not going to cause any damage to any other thing, as well as there must be a plan for restoration, because the law of Lagos State, in Lagos State Environmental Protection and Management Law, requires that for every tree that's removed, 5 must be replaced. Okay. So whether you're replacing it yourself, it's up to you. You tell us the location, we supervise, or you're paying the government to do it on your behalf. We also do it on your behalf and give you a report of the trees that have been restored on your behalf.
Okay, let's look ahead. July 14, which is Tree Planting Day. I'd like you to explain the significance of the theme, which is, let me get it right, Nurture Our Future. What is the significance?
Okay, so the Nurture Our Future theme was carefully thought out, because we don't want the Tree Planting Day to just be a day of coming together and just talking, doing seminar, conference, and then we go. What we want is a situation where we actually do things and let people see that as an agency we're also doing things. So in choosing that theme, we're thinking of the young kids. One of the major parts of this year's Tree Planting Day, so the day is just, July 14th is just one day and it's symbolic. However, the entire tree planting season, it started when the rain started and typically ends around September, October, when the rain starts to subside. And so one of the things we want to do this year is to establish eco-friendly playgrounds in primary schools. A lot of primary schools, public primary schools, don't really have actual playgrounds. They play outside, but it's just dust and sand and there. So we want to, do a prototype of a playground where we use eco-friendly materials, recyclables. We'll be working with Loma to use tires, to create play items for them, and we'll also be planting a lot of trees. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be involving the children as well. So they will join us with the teachers, our staff, Loma staff will come together and we're planting, we're painting the tires, we're setting up the playground, painting wall murals.
It'll be fun.
Yes, it will be fun, and you can be a part of it. And it's something that we want them to understand the joy, in planting. We're not just planting for the sake of planting. At the end of the day, what we want is when you plant trees, you may not enjoy the benefits, but the future ahead of us enjoys the benefits. And so that's the basis of choosing that thing, Nurture Our Future.
Okay, when you say you're involving schools, I'm so sorry, my darling. When you say you're involving schools, are they cut across the 5 divisions, or which locations is this going to happen? Yeah,
so we've identified 1 school per division. Okay. Again, it has to be the primary schools because they're the ones that need the playground. But it also has to be locations that are ready. I don't know if you understand what I mean by ready. So we're not going to do too much in terms of, we're not rebuilding anything. You know, it's just, you have the space. The space is not earmarked for something else. So there's some schools that maybe they have space, but it's earmarked for expansion. We can't go and do a playground there because you have to undo it after a while. So we've identified a few schools. We're talking to the district heads, and we'll do one as a prototype. And our goal is to do at least 6 before the end of the year.
Okay.
And so over the years, trees have been planted, especially on July 14th, or Tree Planting Day. But what are you doing to ensure the survival of these trees? So it's not that after being planted today, tomorrow someone goes and uproots it.
I'm even worried about flooding. You know, when you've planted these trees and then the rains come and then, you know, everywhere is flooded and, you know, takes everything away. How do you, you know, ensure these trees planted remain there? Or, and of course, what she mentioned, you know, aside from flood, how do you maintain these trees?
So one of the ways is, so typically when you plant a tree, it requires about 3 to 6 months for them to stabilize.
Okay.
Because sometimes you've taken the tree seedling from one location and you've taken it somewhere else. They may experience shock. So what we do,
shock as in it will decide not to grow.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe the new soil is not palatable for it, and then it's just not feeling that environment. Yes, exactly. Trees are actually living things that behave like humans. So just like how you move from here and you relocate to another country that's cold, the environment may not be palatable for you. So what we do is ensure that we have a plan for minimum of 6 months maintenance for those trees. So what we do is we have people within the community that we assign to those routes and then we pay them. And that payment includes weeding the perimeter of the trees, because you have some weeds that may suffocate the growth of the tree. They will also water the trees that have been planted on that route, and also replace any trees that experience shock. So if there's anyone that maybe is not growing very well or whatever, they remove and so what we try to do is achieve at least 80 to 85% survival rate for any of the trees that we've planted, and we monitor as well. Another thing that we do is, if we are partnering with organizations as well, it's part of the conditions for us to be able to partner with you on any tree planting exercise. We ensure that you make provision for those 6 months of maintenance. But the good thing is that we try also to plant within the planting season, so that way it reduces the amount of money we'll spend on water.
And the planting season is now?
Yes, it's now when the rains are. In terms of flood, to be honest, we can't really control flood, but what we try to do is identify locations that may not be affected by flood. So roads that have been recently completed by the Ministry of Works, for example, we know that those roads the drainages are done, the roads are done well, and we pick the median and we plant within those. And then we plant in locations that are somewhat controlled. So in the parks, we plant in schools, we plant in hospitals. At least that area is controlled, and there are people there to tend to those trees. Those are the ways that we ensure maintenance.
Okay, so how can the Gaussians, you know, get involved in the tree planting exercise?
Yeah, so this year, as we always do, we're giving out free tree seedlings. We've put it on our social media platforms. There are 4 locations that we currently have designated for people to pick up seedlings for free
of charge.
Free of charge. There are phone numbers that people can contact to pick up, to schedule the pickup. So between now and the end of August, we're going to be giving out free tree seedlings, and people can plant. All we ask is they give us feedback on, this is where I planted, maybe a picture, maybe a hashtag, just something to tell us that you actually planted the trees and you've not gone and sold our seedlings, you know. And then we sort of, you know, checking on you from time to time to monitor the tree. And I mean, we encourage parents to do this even with their kids. Sometimes last year we had a boy turned 8, his dad came to us and they planted 8 trees. And every other month, the boy is sending us updates. Oh, my tree is growing, you know. So that it gives him that sort of joy to see that something, that he's growing and his tree is also growing along with him. You know, so, I mean, we encourage people to pick up free tree seedlings. We have plant nurseries in Ikorodu. We have another one in Agege. Even after this planting season, they can actually buy seedlings from us at very, very competitive rates and plant within their homes, schools, offices, or whatever.
Okay. Someone else said I should ask you this question. Okay. He said that in front of his house, or in front of his parents' house, there is a tree there, but right now the tree is almost pushing the fence, and but he still wants the tree there. But people are saying that they should cut it, uproot it from the just take it out from the roots. And so he's asking that he want the tree back there. That is there something they did wrong in getting the tree there in the first place, or is it the way they planted it that made it affect the fence? That if there's any advice that can be given.
I mean, so the first advice is they can write to us. Our email address is laspark@lagostate.gov.ng, and just share this concern along with pictures as well as an address and contact details, and the team will go and do an assessment. But off the top of my head, typically when things like this happen, it's probably because of tree species selection.
Okay.
So there are some trees that are actually forest trees that are not appropriate for the city. So when you're having a lot of road networks and things like that, there's some trees that are not appropriate for those kind of locations. But we all know, I mean, when we were in primary school, we learned about how trees are planted. Sometimes a bird is carrying a seed from somewhere and just drops it. So it may not even have been
a deliberate
they planted it.
Yeah.
It might just be that they happened on it while they were constructing. So one of the ways we may suggest, if the tree is grown like wild, we can give an approval for them to prune it and just keep it low. Or we can suggest, if it's pushing down the fence, we check in terms of the structure, how much impact it has on the structure of the building. Maybe we have to get LASPARK in to do an assessment. If it's really bad, we'll then have to give an approval for them to take out the tree. We can take a look at the tree and see if it's something that can be transplanted. So we can take it out from there and move it to a place that's appropriate.
For that type of tree.
For that type of tree. Or we may have to, depending on how bad it is in terms of the impact on the building, we may have to give an approval for it to be removed. So we ask that they write to us, and then we can then do assessment.
Okay, this also brings me to the next question. Does your agency, supervise trees in people's gardens or people's homes or in Lagos generally? Is there like an act forbidding people from just taking down trees indiscriminately?
Yes. So remember the earlier conversation we said trees are human beings, are like human beings, they're living things. And you can't just go around killing people in their houses.
Wow.
Oh, okay.
Right? As citizens of Lagos, we're responsible for adhering to the laws of Lagos. And one of those laws says that once there's a tree that has grown to a certain age, it becomes a property of the state, regardless of the location within Lagos.
Regardless of who planted it.
Regardless of who planted it. So if you have a tree in your house and you want to remove it, you must seek approval from, Lagos State.
That's new. Learn something new. Okay, Joy.
It's the same way you want to build a house. So you built your house, agreed. It's your house within your property. And then you decide that you want to renovate it or you have to go and get approval from the building permit agency to do your rehabilitation. You need to present your plans and all that. So it's the same thing. Even people that want to build, many times within the space that they want to build, there's some trees that they need to take out. The building permit agency will send them to us to say, go and take a look at these trees. And then what we also look at is within their building plan, what is the space that is earmarked for greening? How many trees do you plan to plant there? Once we're considerably satisfied with your plan, then we can ask you to maybe remove the trees or transplant or move them around. But it's important that people get approval. People don't understand why, but hey, that's the law.
Okay, so are there other activities that you have lined up for this year's tree planting exercise?
Well, we always do a symbolic planting. Hopefully this year we'll be able to do it with the governor and the deputy governor.
Why is it symbolic?
It's symbolic because we're leading by example. So the governor is showing to Lagosians that I'm not just asking you to plant trees, I'm also doing it myself. So the governor, the deputy governor will be planting as they've done in previous years. The commissioner will also be planting. I will be planting myself. There are some heads of agencies that we're going to plant. It doesn't have to be on the 14th. It can be any time between now and October. So myself and some other of my colleagues, heads of agencies, will be planting within the premises of Lag Ferry Mile 2. We'll be working with private organizations, so many, I don't want to mention names, but Rotary Club, UBA Foundation, and several other organizations that have actually expressed interest to partner with us on tree planting as their CSR projects, one of the CSR projects for this year. The local government and LCDs will also be planting simultaneously. Some of them will do it on Friday, some on Sunday, some on Monday, or whenever it is that's convenient for them. But there'll be a lot of planting going on around the whole of Lagos at the same time. And it doesn't just stop on the 14th. We're going to continue planting till the end of the planting season, which is around September, October.
Okay. Let's look at parks and gardens now. What determines the location of a particular garden or parks? There are some roundabouts in Lagos that you find that, okay, it has been beautified with beautiful flowers and lush gardens and lush grasses, and then you see, like, you know, a board telling you it's been managed by a particular organization. How does that work? Is that collaboration with the Lagos State Parks and Agency, Parks and Gardens Agency? Okay,
thanks. So this is a part of my job that's very dear to me, because it involves a lot of engagement and collaborations and partnerships with private organizations, individuals, NGOs. So we have a program called an adoption program, where just like you go to an orphanage to adopt a baby. So someone goes and says, I want this baby, and the adoption agency gives you the baby to take care of. LASPARK is the adoption agency now, okay? So we have all these spaces, according to the Lagos State Master Plan, have been earmarked for greening already. So it's right there in the master plan that this roundabout is supposed to be green, this setback is supposed to be green.
Okay,
it's
so
there.
That's how you get the locations.
So we have those locations already based on what is in the master plan, right? So we then approach organizations, or organizations approach us to say, how can we partner with them? We say, well, we have a roundabout at Akinadeshola VI, for example. Is a nice place for you to beautify as well as showcase your brand. You know, so there are some benefits for them as well in that they're showcasing their brand, and that's where you see those boards that say this space is being managed by. And for them, it shows that their own customers, that they are environmental friendly, conscious of the environment, and they have CSR projects that they're doing. And for us, it benefits us because it takes the cost of maintenance off the Lagos State government and it's transferred to those organizations. Okay. So we have places where you see fountains, we have places where you see grass, trees, beautiful plants, and different monuments and things like that. So those are partnerships that we have under the adoption initiative. So we monitor as well, because we can't just give you the child and you just run away with that child. We want to ensure that you're feeding the child properly, you're doing the right things, you're not changing the use. So we give you an approval for beautification and you go and do something else. So we also do those monitoring.
Is it an agreement that will last for a particular
while?
Time.
So quite a number of the adoptions that we've had have actually been on for many years. Many years. Okay. But what we do is we give approvals per annum. Okay. Because sometimes those setbacks are there for future road expansion, right? And so the day the government decides that, okay, we're ready to expand this from a 4-lane road to a 10-lane road, we would have to ask them. So a typical example is the Allen Avenue roundabout. It used to be a big roundabout.
Oh, it was massive.
Yes. But at the time when the traffic within that area exploded, we had to work with the Ministry of Transport to reduce the size and then have intersections. So what you have then there now are traffic junctions. It's still beautified, but you don't have those big roundabouts anymore. So it's a temporary agreement with those organizations, and they do understand that it's temporary. As long as possible, we renew per annum.
Okay.
Yes. Just for emphasis sake, I want you to talk again the importance of planting trees. I know you've said it before. I want you to say it again.
It is very important to plant trees. Trees are life. Planting trees is one of the cheapest, easiest ways to fight the effects of climate change. There's a lot of talk about climate change.
Flooding.
People don't quite see it until it impacts them personally. People think that when there's flooding is a government problem. It's a we problem. We're the ones that are causing it. So the government can provide the infrastructure, the drainages, the roads, networks and things like that. But we have that personal responsibility to, one, plant trees, two, dispose of our waste properly, three, recycle, reuse if we can, or don't even buy those plastics if you don't need them. And I mean, so this tree planting is one of the ways. And within the Ministry of Environment, every agency within the Ministry of Environment, from LOMA, who handles waste management, to LASPARK, who monitors pollution and things like that, to LASPARK, who encourages planting of trees and beautification, you know, to the wastewater management and things. It's a combined effort to ensure that we are protecting the environment for a cleaner, greener, and healthier Lagos.
I'm still talking about the beautification. I've noticed that also under some of our bridges that we have paintings.
Yeah.
I mean, is it also
It's
under
also
your...
part of the beautification. The Falamo Bridge, for example, has the paintings. Recreational spaces as well. So not just beautification. You know, there are also recreational spaces. There are basketball courts. In our Ikorodu Park, we had a partnership with NBA. They actually built a basketball court for the community. We've had several partnerships with Red Bull, Nigeria. There's a skate park in
You're mentioning a brand name.
because they've done very well, and they've done this at no cost to the state government. A brand, I don't want to say, but many of them don't even do adverts. They don't advertise these things that they do, and they've spent a lot of money. I can imagine what it will cost us as a government to do those things. So it's important that we acknowledge them from time to time. Yes.
Okay. I also want to, talk about this named parks around us here. Is it the family of these people that manages those parks also, or what is the
just named
relation?
To honor them.
So typically the governor per time,
I'll mention them, and
JJT
Park,
yes, Refuge Afujo Park, Murio Konla Park.
Yeah.
The governor, at the time when the parks are being built and approval is being sought to go ahead with building the parks, a request is also made from the governor to name the parks.
Okay.
And if there's any person at the point in time that the government decides that they want to honor, they pass that information to us and we name the park after them. We invite the family to also witness the launch of the park. However, the maintenance is done solely by LASPARK.
So solely by LASPARK?
Yes, absolutely.
So why are they charging money when people want to use the place?
So we charge entry fees because there's a cost to maintain the parks.
Okay.
And it costs a lot of money to maintain the parks. And for us to have at least the minimum standard of, water, to be able to flush the toilets, we hire cleaning staff, we hire security staff, janitors, we hire horticulturists that maintain the place. There's some level of, give and take. It's very minimal. It's 1,000 naira. And we even just introduced that 1,000 naira just a few months ago. We've tested it to see, there's been a bit of pushback, and so we're going to modify a few things and take into consideration children and maybe elderly people, because we want to encourage them to come to the park. But when people want to have events, you want to have your wedding, your birthday party, then you would have to pay, just like you pay in any other event space.
But as an individual, do you pay?
Yes.
Just one person?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
So that's why I said we tested it to see, but we're going to make a few modifications to ensure that we can also still encourage people in light of the way the economy is. We want people to come to the parks to relax. So we're going to make those modifications so that we can accommodate more people that
want to
make use of it.
Talking about accommodating more people, are the parks accommodating for people living with disabilities?
Well, most of the parks are, in fact, all of the parks are ground level flooring. So you don't have elevations and all that. There's some play items that are not quite fit for people living with disabilities. But I've actually had several conversations with the general manager, Mr. Adenike, about maybe fabricating a few within some of the parks that can, children living with disabilities can also enjoy. But for the most part, we have sandboxes, so it's just level ground that you can play with sand and things, and sensory things that they can play with.
Okay, just before, or do you have any
just one final, but after you.
Okay, just before we go, I'd like you to convey to Lagos residents
that's my question.
about the importance of participating in these activities such as tree planting.
Like a call to action
And the call,
for
yeah,
Lagosians.
for-
So our call to action to Lagosians is plant a tree. You know, you can plant in your homes, you can plant in your offices. It doesn't have to be 100 things. They always say little drops of water make a mighty ocean. The amount of carbon that those trees take up,
Okay.
you may not be able to count it, but it has that effect on your health, right? We also are calling on organizations to partner with us on tree planting, beautification, adoption, like I explained earlier, and also creating gardens and parks around Lagos.
Yeah, we still have many more places to be
Oh,
adopted.
so many. There's so many spaces. It looks like there's a lot, but it's not a lot. There's so many places. There are a lot of under bridges that can be converted and turned into nice recreational spaces and things like that. So we're calling on people to partner with us on that.
Okay, thank you. You have any other question?
No. Just
Thank you so much. It has been an interesting time here in
Thank
the
you for
studio.
having me.
Promoting a greener and healthier Lagos has been our topic of discussion today. And the General Manager, Lagos State Parks and Gardens Agency, Adetoun Popoola, has done justice.
At the top.
Yeah, has done justice to this topic of discuss. Thank you again.
Thank you. Thanks for
joining us on
having
the
me.
conversation.
It's nice seeing you beautifully, and I'd like to see you again. So maybe I'll
okay.
invite you to one of our events before the end of the year.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. The conversation continues. Please stay with us.